Have you ever lived next to someone who seems determined to make your life harder for no reason at all? Well, let me tell you about Damien. Damien was a simple, quiet guy who adored three things: his cozy home, his perfectly trimmed lawn, and most importantly, his beloved army of garden gnomes. These weren't just decorations to him. Each one had a name, a personality, and a tiny story attached to it. Gerald the fisherman, Beatrice the baker, and old Bartholomew, who didn't really do anything but somehow felt important anyway. His yard was his happy place, a quirky, colorful escape from the world. But even the happiest places attract trouble. And trouble arrived in the form of Karen, the freshly elected president of the HOA, armed with a binder full of rules and the attitude of a drill sergeant. To her, Damien's gnomes weren't charming, they were visual pollution. Every time she passed his house, she'd glare at the figurines like they personally offended her existence. Then came the dreaded envelope on a chilly Tuesday morning. A cold, stiff letter reminding Damien of Rule 7B, subsection C. All yard decorations must be approved by the HOA Architectural Committee. 10 years he'd lived there. 10 years without one complaint. Still, he sent a polite email explaining how much the gnomes meant to him. Karen replied like a malfunctioning robot. Sentimental attachment is not a valid exception. Remove all unapproved items within 48 hours, the message was loud and clear. Trying to keep peace, Damien packed away his entire gnome family. Suddenly, his once lively yard looked empty and sad. But after a week of staring at his dull lawn, rebellion started bubbling in his chest. So he placed one tiny gnome barely visible behind a rose bush. By morning, it was smashed to pieces. Another violation notice. A $100 fine. That's when Damien realized this wasn't about rules, it was a power trip. He tried everything: small fences, taller plants, hidden placements. Karen found every gnome like she had built-in radar. Each one ended up in pieces. His trash can became a graveyard of broken ceramic smiles. Everyone told him to just give up. But Damien wasn't ready to surrender. If anything, the constant attacks awakened something inside him. Something bold. Something a little insane. He came up with an idea so over the top, it was perfect. Not just another gnome, a super gnome. A gnome to end all gnomes. He turned his garage into a makeshift workshop. Bags of concrete, steel bars, epoxy strong enough to glue a car together. He drew rough blueprints. Then he built a massive steel skeleton. This wasn't going to be a statue. It would be a fortress. He poured concrete into a huge custom mold. 4 feet tall, heavy as a boulder. He sculpted the details with the focus of an artist, giving it a bold grin and a fishing pole and homage to old Gerald. When he finished painting it, it looked like a giant, cheerful garden gnome you might buy at a store. But underneath it was built like a tank. He named him Goliath. With 2 friends and a rented hoist, he planted Goliath directly in the center of his lawn, anchored 3 feet into the ground with steel and concrete. Then he set up a hidden camera, because he knew Karen would not be able to resist. Sure enough, the next morning, Karen's car screeched to a stop. She stormed out, eyes full of rage. She shoved the gnome nothing. She pushed again, still nothing. She tried lifting it. It didn't move an inch. Frustrated, she grabbed a crowbar from her car and went to war. Clang, clang, clang. The crowbar bounced off the reinforced concrete while neighbors gathered, staring in disbelief as the HOA president battled a giant smiling gnome and lost. Damien watched from his window, sipping coffee and enjoying the show. Finally, exhausted and furious, Karen threw the crowbar down and sped away. The footage Damien captured spread through the neighborhood group like wildfire. Emails flooded the HOA office, not supporting Karen, but supporting Damien. Within days, Karen was quietly removed from her position. The ridiculous yard decoration rule was rewritten, and Goliath became a neighborhood legend. Eventually, Damien brought his small gnomes out of hiding. They now sit proudly around Goliath, like loyal subjects gathered around their king. His yard and his peace were restored.